Computers are useful for their purpose, but they are no substitute for brains.
All right, here we go.
I have to say, well done, Ray. Well done. Well played, my adversary. Well played.
Phoenix isn't gay, but if he was, he'd pick Fremo.
Oh yeah, he'd be living down there with you in the bunker, man. Woo!
Once you go free, you always do the Z.
Like one day of not going to Duncan, and you could get a controller, a new Xbox, possibly even a cord.
And now here's the gang with the most bang.
Welcome to BGFG episode, what the hell are we on? 438. I'm your host, Chris Phoenix, and joining me, as always, my co-host, my brother from another mother, Mr. Fremo Z. How are you doing this week, sir?
Well, I'm off this coming week, so I'm doing fantastic right now.
Ooh. Maybe I should postpone some of the things I'm doing. That's a lot of days of gaming right there.
No, because I got a big long list.
Oh, do you?
Yeah,
A lot of projects and shit.
yeah. I mean, we should definitely be able to fit in some extra gaming throughout the week. That's
Yeah.
not that shouldn't be a problem. But I definitely have. I wouldn't change your point to try and get extra gaming in because I got stuff to do too. But my goal is to go ahead and get up early. Maybe not quite as early, but get up early and get the stuff knocked out. Hopefully by noon, 1 o'clock every day, and then
Yeah.
slide
the
into
same
some
thing.
gaming.
Yeah, I do the same thing. My wife's always like, "Where are you going? What are you doing?" I'm like, "It's 9. Stuff's open. I'm getting stuff done.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't lollygag around. It's a day
In
off, so I
fact,
want the day
today,
off."
I'm excited because after we get done here, first thing I'm gonna do is go get the chainsaw running.
Ooh.
Yeah, I got a new chain, got everything squared away. I've just got to put the chain on, and then
Get some cutting done.
got some stuff I got to get situated before everything starts growing up and getting green again, and I
Yeah.
can't get to it.
Good, man.
So
All right, we got a good show this week. Let's get into this week's news, and we'll take it from there. BGFG News. You heard it here third. So, shocking news this week. Microsoft is actually looking out for our well-being in some ways. In Microsoft's way, they're looking out for our well-being. I mean,
yeah,
granted,
it just so happens that this time it lines up with the good of humanity.
their pocketbook lines up. This all stems from a New York Times agreement to help develop and train OpenAI. And I can only assume from the article, because it wasn't exactly clear, but most likely they just let OpenAI read through all the backlog of New York Times papers to teach it a language. And Microsoft decided not to pay them for the access. So the New York Times took them to court to get paid for it. But Microsoft, however, is comparing what?
How? The entire catalog of New York Times is available for public consumption.
Correct. I don't know. Maybe there was some sort of back deal. They didn't really explain it. If people click on the show link, it's not really explained exactly what.
Granted, I'm sure Microsoft preferred to go the route of getting the digital from the New York Times instead of having some freaking interns
It's great, but
going through microfiche, printing page by
that'd be
page the
great.
newspaper from 1947, and then scanning it in digitally.
Yeah. Microsoft is comparing New York Times copyright claim to be the same as Hollywood trying to shut down VCRs. I think it's a broad little statement. They said that large language models simply learn language from reading newspapers, which is fair use, like Fremo said, public domain. So, what exactly are they trying to get? Like, I'm not sure.
Are they trying to say if OpenAI quotes the New York Times or uses verbiage similar to what was in a New York Times article that they're they need to be paid for that.
How are you possibly going to prove that?
Because, well, I mean, but here's the thing. Here's the thing. If I read a New York Times article and then we get on here and we discuss it,
Yeah.
that's no different than AI using it in a reply.
I agree. I agree 100%.
So if AI is now liable for plagiarism, are they going to start hitting us for every
Man,
little thing?
if AI is going to be, that would be bad. That would be bad for AI because it's learning from everything else. All
Because
this information.
here's the next catch-22. For AI to be liable for plagiarism, it has to be deemed an entity.
Oh, no. We're going to go ahead and say no to that.
And if it gets deemed an entity, then that opens all kinds of doors that we don't want open
Right.
for AI to
Yeah.
become an entity.
Yeah, exactly. What is more interesting is the second suit. It's a class action lawsuit. This one is the one that really people are ignoring, and I don't know why. This one has 198 pages of a doomsday hyperbole about AI as a threat to humanity. It's all centered around Microsoft and OpenAI and their ongoing violations of privacy. And most of that is about scraping data for OpenAI, which we've talked about on the show before.
Yeah.
You know, anything that's public, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, Blogger, Google, New York Times, anything.
Freaking Bing searches. I mean,
Washington Post. Yeah, exactly.
anything you do, any EULA that you've agreed to,
Yeah,
is being sold to somebody somewhere in some way.
right. And
Something that you've done, you possess something. I mean, maybe we should jump on this lawsuit because you know that they're going to be scraping the catalog of 30ish and BGFG.
that'd be unwise. That'd be the most annoying chat GPT ever. It'd just be angry rebuttals.
I think it would be awesome.
Like every other word's douche. Like it probably wouldn't work. They'd probably sue us. You broke our chat GPT. Yeah, I might have.
You know, conspiracy theories would run rampant on the internet. Wait a minute, they already do.
Microsoft fired back with, and I quote, plaintiffs do not have any facts plausible showing they have been affected by scraping, intercepting, or eavesdropping. What? You've been doing what now? Eavesdropping, intercepting? That's
they're saying
not
that
okay.
they have no proof of any of this stuff happening.
Yeah, but why did you even put that? That's kind of like when we've talked before about peace treaties. And peace treaties.
It's
No, wait.
legalese, man. You got to cover yourself for everything that possibly could come your way. That's just CYA.
But I get that. But they're saying that they've been intercepting or eavesdropping. Why would you even put that into the literature for? I get it. DY.
Because it was
WRS,
alleged. The New York Times says that they did. So they're having to say, no, we didn't.
Okay. All right. Here's another piece of this class action lawsuit that kind of pissed me off. OpenAI gave no notice to the world that they've been collecting similar data over the whole internet for years.
Yeah.
So they've been building this. People need to.
Yeah, they've been buying your information forever and a day. That's how they were able to develop and launch OpenAI.
But I don't think people.
It's not like someone said, "Hey, let's do a chat bot and stick it out there and let it start collecting information and building replies." No, when they launched it, it was ready to go. They already had the information.
Right. I just don't. I think what bothers me more is that there's so many people not taking AI seriously enough, in my opinion, at all. Like you need to start taking this shit more seriously because it can explode and go very bad.
Well, it's going to go bad. It's going to go bad. And I'll give you one instance. And you know what? We'll never mind. We'll do that offline. I'll give you this instance offline. I'm going to self-censor for once in the history of the show. That's how touchy this topic is. I don't want to just put it out there. You and I'll talk about it offline.
And it's not just Microsoft that's doing this. It's making me nervous about AI. AMD, which is a company that I love. I think they're a great company. And in a recent fireside chat, Dr. Lisa Su from AMD said that we need to be moving
Intel stepchild.
Lisa Su said that we need to be moving faster with AI, not slower. I was like, what?
Okay.
The argument can be made. I see where you're
Yeah,
going with
yes,
this.
and yes and no. Yes and no. Depends on what she means by faster and which direction they want to go with it.
Well, that's the thing, is that I mean, you could sit there and say that she's trying to push her Epic server chips or instant graphics cards, but her argument is valid that right now AI is like the Wild West. The data
Yeah,
it
well,
uses.
here's the thing. AI is evolving right now
Right, right,
on its own.
right.
We've opened Pandora's box there. So it's doing things on its own. It's not sentient,
No,
so to speak, but it has been designed and built to learn and grow on its own. Okay? And
right.
everyone's sitting around all wringing their hands talking about Skynet, which, I'm not saying that's not a valid point, but here's the problem. From where we are now to getting to Skynet, a lot of other things can go wrong.
Yeah,
So what she's saying is we need to proactively get ahead of this. We need to move faster on designing models that we can control, with fail
right.
safes, whatever.
She pointed out that the data that they're using is public domain data, and it's
Yeah.
not very reliable. She did admit that there is a risk of AI, um, but going slower.
You literally right now, and right, wrong, or indifferent, where you land on what I'm about to talk about is irrelevant to me. But you cannot deny that in the last few years, there has been a huge shift in society of canceling people that differ in opinions
Yep.
to yourself.
Right.
If you get enough people together to scream loud enough to get someone canceled, okay, that's what AI is learning on right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Your social media,
Do you
especially.
really want AI determining what is fair for the populace
No, definitely
when we're
not.
in the midst of probably one of the angriest cultures that's existed on planet Earth in a
It's
long
true.
time?
That is true. Yeah, I don't know.
You know,
I understand what she's saying. I just think the way she said it, like she went on to explain that if you go faster and put regulations into place, you can prevent doomsday from happening,
right.
which I don't disagree with. Um, I just think that the way she put it was a little bit risky. And speaking of
She
risky,
was not extremely clear.
no,
And here's the thing. No doubt she's an extremely intelligent woman. She wouldn't be where she is if she wasn't.
right.
But like a lot of extremely intelligent people, they have a difficulty translating what's in here
Yes,
to general populace.
right. It just sounds not good. Did you know that also this week I learned that even safes aren't safe? See what I did
Oh,
there?
where have you been, man?
See what I did? Well, I know there's.
Never mind. You're in Rhode Island. I get it. I get it.
Oh, now the
You don't have
safes.
you don't have the culture that we have down here. This was something months and months ago that tore through everybody, and they were all up in arms over it. But yeah,
Really?
yeah.
I don't even know anything about this till I read it.
Like
So
I said, you're in Rhode Island.
now are
That's
these
not a
laws?
ding against Rhode Island. It's just y'all have a different culture, daily culture than
Right.
we have in other areas of the country. That's all.
So apparently, it's two of the most used locks in commercial safes have been accused
Yeah.
of putting back doors in their locks. So I'm assuming from what you're saying is it gun safes?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
One of the largest gun safe manufacturers basically just got ripped and shredded. I mean, like people were like, okay, we're getting rid of the safes that we bought from y'all and we'll never buy another one.
Yeah, that's a good way to break your
Because
business.
it's the equivalent of admin on a tech device.
All right, right. It's a manager reset
Right.
code, right?
So it comes from the manufacturer. They tell you to reset this, right?
Yeah.
If you know it exists, then you go reset it. You change the admin password to something different. Well, the problem is they did not tell anyone that there was a universal code to all of these safes.
And the DOD knew about this for years and didn't tell anybody, never made it public. I think that's a problem. That's not
Well,
good.
Why would the government
That's true. That's
want
true.
to give that knowledge out?
Yeah.
There are elements of the government that want to, and again, another sensitive topic, but there are elements within the government that want to take all firearms away from the
Right.
populace.
Right.
So yeah, this is a godsend for them that this existed because they can literally go into any house
Any
and
safe.
confiscate anything they want without having to remove the actual safe because the logistics of taking these big heavy safes is a whole nother thing.
And it's two companies. There's a China-based company, Securum, and a U.S.-based company, Sargent and Greenleaf, otherwise known as S&G.
Yeah.
So I just think that, and now that you said that, that really kind of clarifies it for me. Because you're right. Why would the DOD say anything?
Yeah.
There's no plus side for that when they can get into it themselves.
Yeah.
All these stories have serious issues and implications. All the stuff that we just did that kind of make you want to go home and relax, right? Just kick back, relax, have a beer or two. One of the relaxing things you might be doing is now not allowed in Texas anymore.
Well,
That was a hard segue.
it's
So
not allowed. It's not legal in Texas, but you know,
come
like
on,
my grandfather used to say, it's not illegal if you don't get caught.
So Texas has now blocked Pornhub, and what it was there was legislation put through for Texas's age verification for adult sites went into effect. Now, if you live in Texas and you head to Pornhub, you're going to see a message about government overreach and compromises. Again, we've talked about this on the show before. I don't know where I stand on this because you do have to have limitations in there. There's no reason. I mean, granted, when we were younger and the internet was still new, yeah, I searched for boobs. I remember
Yeah,
when
and
my son was like,
you'd wait 15 minutes for that 1
one
meg
picture.
file to
Yeah.
download.
I know on my son, the first time my oldest son got a computer, I did see that in his search history, and he was like all sorts of ashamed on it and everything. I'm like, okay, kids are going to do that, but there's other parts of the site that they don't need to see. It's a slippery slope and it's a tough call, but there
Well,
always
I mean,
should be age verification.
Yeah, there needs to be, and the only way to truly do this is something I would not want to do. I mean, literally, the only way to do this is you have to either scan in your driver's license or you have to have some kind of RFID biometric within your body that you can verify with.
This could all
That's
be
literally the only way to do this, and the scanning in of the ID is easily bypassed. I get that.
We've
You know,
talked
you
about
grab
this on the
mom's
show before,
ID or
though.
dad's ID while they're not looking.
It's easier than that. We've talked about this on the show before. It's a very easy thing. In fact, there was a porn actress, her name escapes me right now, that tried to do this years ago, maybe a decade or so ago. And that is just simply change adult sites to .edu. Now anybody at their home can block a .edu site. Okay? That's the easiest way to get this done. I couldn't walk into an adult bookstore growing up because I would get carded and thrown out. What we had to rely on is somebody stealing their older brothers or their father's magazines.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree with you on that. That is one way to help this situation.
Okay.
But you know as well as I do, how many parents, even the ones that may want to block .edu, have the capacity to do so easily?
Oh, I don't like that as a cop out. I don't.
It's not a cop out. I mean,
well,
dude, what was the story a few weeks ago where these parents were complaining about something and we both went off like, no, you be the parent in this situation?
I don't disagree with you with that.
Those are the same people that aren't going to bother to block .edu. I'm saying the only way to do this, to truly do this, is the industry itself would have to have a gateway that's mandated.
There you go. There you go. You just said it. Disney created a router not too long ago that had all sorts of parental stuff built in, and it had a blacklist built in as well.
That's comical.
If you shut up, if
Disney.
you put that same type of technology or idea into a family safe router and sell it as that's going to spread. That word's going to spread.
Yeah,
and that's going to be something really simple.
But I mean, you know as well as I do, there's going to be ways around any of that. There's going to be ways around anything, period.
Always.
Which is what this article is about. It's like
Always.
they're basically saying we're not advocating that you get a VPN to break the law in Texas, but if you want to download some Linux torrents, get a VPN.
Yeah. Google Trends show that in one day, all searches were just off to the wayside, and all Texas was searching for was VPNs.
Yeah, 100% interest in VPN.
Yeah. I'm sure it's for watching anime in Japan. Right?
Oh, absolutely.
Sure.
Did you see the list that they put out there though?
No.
I found this kind of interesting. The recommended list that they gave
of
was
VPNs?
ExpressVPN, NordVPN, Mulvad, Windscribe Pro. Out of those 4, which one would you recommend?
Possibly Nord.
Yeah.
But
I just thought it was funny. It's like they must be getting a kickback from ExpressVPN.
Oh yeah, because ExpressVPN is now like literally in almost every computer. Kind of like the way you see McAfee in every computer. Now you see ExpressVPN, and I think that's kind of I can't tell you how many people I discouraged from using one because they simply don't need one. And I'll do it on the down low. I'll be like, sir, do you go to adult sites? He's like, no, I don't. Which is probably a lie, but maybe not that often. So why do you need a VPN? Like, do you live in, like Cox Cable knows where you're going because they have to route you there. And then during the transition between A and B, it hits the VPN and goes to all different locations and such. But you don't need a VPN for basic surfing. You just don't. It's overkill. All right, let's get into.
You technically don't need a VPN, period, unless you're doing something that somebody somewhere has said you can't do.
Right.
I mean, that's the long and short of it.
All right, let's get into this week's music. And this week I chose a hit from 1975. I was literally listening to the radio. I'm like, I forgot how good this song was.
Yeah.
This is from a band called Head East. And again, this is 1975. This band's gone. The band's name is Head East, and it's called Never Been a Reason. And if you don't know
they're
what
so
that
old,
is,
when I first looked at it, I was like, wait a minute, wasn't there already a band called Head East? And then I realized you'd gone with them, the old one.
Yeah.
I was like, did somebody revive this band?
Nope, it's the same old 1975 hit. So you'll probably know it about midway through if you listen to any sort of rock and roll stations, and if not, and you're starting to listen to us to get your rock and roll tastes, this is a good one to start off at. And we'll catch you on the other side of some stick style news. It's a good track. I don't know where the hell Fremo went. He seems to be there, but he's not actually there. So I guess I'll just get into stick style on my own. We usually do a beer segment right now, but I know he's going to be operating the chainsaw after the show, and I haven't felt very well for the past couple of days, so I'm just sticking with ginger ale is what I'm doing. So we'll get into stick style, and I'm sure Fremo won't care because, well, first story is something he's not going to like anyway.
Gaming.
So first up in this week's stick style is news about the PlayStation Pro. PlayStation 5 Pro is real, apparently. So from what we're saying. Much speculated, and of course, nothing has ever been said by Sony themselves, except that they're on track to make a new unit, as every other company does. The thing that makes me kind of laugh about the PlayStation, I know how much Fremo loves talking about the PlayStation, is that as much as we talk about the PlayStation and Fremo hates it, it's still a fact.
Sorry. I just had to school some Gen Zs, or not Gen Zs. I don't know what they'd be. I guess they're Gen Zs. I went out to get a drink, and they were all like stretching, and I'm like, "What's going on here?" They're like, "Oh, we're about to see you can do the most push-ups." I was like, Okay. I drop down and they're like, go. And I just start banging them out. I'm like, 1, 2, 3, 4. I got to about 25. I hadn't slowed down yet. And this one kid's like, dang, Lamar. And he quit. He's like at 19. Other guy kept going. I'm like, 34, 35. He's like, 33 and stops. I'm like, 36, 37. Oh, y'all are done? Okay.
I would have stopped at 3 and just watched you. But
They're like, do you work out? I'm like, yeah, I do push-ups on a regular one. And they're like, well, can you do the diamond push-up? I'm like, probably could bang out a couple of those, but I'm not going to risk it because I've had a hernia surgery
yeah.
and I don't want to that because there's so much stress on the core when you do those. I
Yeah.
said, but I can do this, and I dropped down and was like,
Oh, look, clappers. Nice. Yeah, I haven't been able to do that
I
shit in
think this
years.
guy just hurt his elbow trying to do one.
So there's of course speculation. Sony's not saying anything. And the rumor is it'll be here for this holiday. Now, the question always comes up, well, how come we don't hear anything from you guys about the Xbox? Well, because they're not doing any new consoles. They just haven't talked about it. Are they all working on them? I'm sure they're all working on the next generation console. But as of right now, there's no talk of an Xbox next generation console. They have their, and we're going to talk about this more in a minute, but they have their irons in the fire of so many different things,
Yeah.
which is why we love the difference between the two. The new console, codenamed Trinity, should have an improved and more consistent frames per second at 4K. That's wonderful. In a performance mode for 8K. I don't know why you would need 8K. And it should also render information 46% faster. And there's a lot of talk about this Pro with GTA 6, with the release of GTA 6 coming out. And some people talking about how it's the most important game release of all time. Like, seriously, GTA 6? I don't know. I don't see it. There's so many other games, Pal World, Tekken, Starfield, Among Us, Helldivers 2, that could definitely, make this look. I shouldn't say Starfield. That's not right. But Among Us, Helldivers 2, Tekken, Pal World, there's a lot of things on the PlayStation system that can benefit from an upgraded like 4K if you're playing in 4K. I personally don't. I'll do 1440 on the PC, and I'm perfectly fine with the 120 that we're getting off of the this generation's consoles. These games have all changed the gaming landscape, but GTA, I don't see that. I mean, granted, if that's what it's all about, then great. And as I was alluding to before, Xbox has so many different irons in the fire. Like PlayStation's coming out with a new system that's going to be 4K, and that's great. But Xbox has got online. They have their cloud service, which is not too bad. They have their current generation console, which is great. They have their PC version, if you have Xbox Ultimate, Game Pass Ultimate, rather. So you have all of these different things available to you. And I think that's really well done. I don't know. But GTA, that's just... GTA is just GTA. I don't see the big point in why that would be such a big thing for PlayStation. I think PlayStation should not put all of their eggs in the GTA 6 basket. I think that's a very bad idea. I think you should go work on some negotiations with Microsoft about different things, which we'll get to in a minute. Next thing that I want to talk about was EA. So EA has been talking about layoffs for God knows how long, and it seems like every time you turn around, every week there's a new layoff. Things are just changing and things aren't looking great for a lot. But this time it's Respawn. Really? You're laying off people at Respawn. You got Jedi Fallen Order, Jedi Survivor, Apex Legends, Medal of Honor. Again, I understand. Jedi Fallen Order, Jedi Survivor, they've been out for a while, done, finished games, just, maintenance. Apex Legends, again, finished game. They're doing a few upgrades here and there, or updates. Medal of Honor, Titanfall, those games have pretty much been done for a while and out. But why would you lay off so many of the team at Apex Legends? I don't play Apex Legends. I've done it a couple of times. It's a good game, and I know a lot of faithful Apex Legends players. But you're just taking that away. And then they said don't worry, we're fully invested in Apex Legends. You know what, EA? I believe you about as much as I believe Microsoft when they purchase a new company. And they take that new company, they say, no, it's going to be fine. Don't worry about anything. We're going to have these people here, and we're going to put them under our umbrella. It's going to be great. And then 6 months to a year later, the company's dissolved. Everybody's taken a severance package and gotten out of there. And EA's no different. EA does shit like that all the time. And they continuously come out and say, we're looking at our IPs and we want to keep them in-house and all that happy horse shit. Whatever. I don't buy it for a second. And, classic solid games, or I should say solid classic games, are going away in some cases. You see them just either the developer got closed or there's just been no updates and the game's just hanging out there. But a game from 2017 is still hanging on tightly, and that's PUBG. PUBG just announced new, and that's, for those that don't know, that's Player Underground Battlegrounds, Player Unknown Battlegrounds. Oh, jeez. And this was the first battle royal game that everybody really kind of did. Now, Fortnite did take over the genre, but PUBG is the OG. When you win a battle royal, winner chicken dinner, that's from PUBG, and they still hold a place in all of our hearts for those battle royal games. And just like several other games, it does have its problems with cheaters. There's a lot of cheating going on, and they're really working hard to get rid of it. They just made a huge announcement that they're getting rid of cheaters as quickly as they can, and they let go, or they announced their roadmap. And they're planning on introducing destructible areas, gunplay updates every 2 months, which means probably new weapons or different weapons, zip lines, new game modes, better bots, and improved matchmaking. And I think this is great because a game that came out in 2017 has always just kind of been there. A lot of people got their starts. Dr. Disrespect, I think that was one of his first games, was PUBG. It just got very popular very fast, and then kind of Fortnite took over, but there's still faithful people for PUBG. And they're also upgrading to the Unreal 5 engine, so it's going to look even better. I think this is a great action for PUBG. Keep them fresh. Keep it new. Don't go into the path that Fortnite is going to. Fortnite was a great alternative for the Battle Royale game, but then it just got bastardized. And then you had multiple game modes, which were fine. I'm not saying they weren't. Then you were able to turn off the build. If you turned off the build, that was great because now you had people that weren't usually playing the game getting into the game because you had no builds. But then they started adding all sorts of other shit. Kudos to them for adding like Lego and concert events online. That's great, but it's not the game that got you to the dance. I think PUBG has never compromised, and now they're just going to add to it. And let's talk about some of those Microsoft strategies that I was alluding to before. Now, we said before that, Microsoft's got a lot of irons in the fire. They don't need to really worry about a new age console. And I think that's because, like Peter Moore, he's a former Xbox executive. He was there for the original Xbox, the 360. Years ago, there were conversations about Halo on the PlayStation. Years ago, according to him. And you have to remember that PlayStation's almost doubled the units that Xbox has sold. Like double the units. So if you made $250,000 or $250 million, let's say, on your franchise of Halo, when you move it over and port it over to the PlayStation, you're going to get a whole nother group of people. Like we've talked about on the show before, Xbox is extremely popular in the United States, and then some parts of the UK or overseas. With PlayStation, it's like super popular overseas and somewhat popular here. So that's where you get it. And there's just more people overseas on the other continents than there is here. That's just a fact. So if you start porting these games over there, you have the potential to make a shit ton more money. Halo is one of those franchises. I like to think, and I'm a Halo fan. I mean, you can see the Master Chief helmet back there. I wasn't feeling good yesterday, so I was binge watching. I binge watched the entire Halo series on Paramount. I think it's on now. And again, that was tough to take because that wasn't a great one, but it served its purpose. And I think Halo going over to the PlayStation, I think that Microsoft has the potential to make a large amount of money if they do that. And I think Halo's actually plateaued a little bit, where I don't think they're going to be doing much
Halo
more than.
plateaued after Red versus Blue quit producing.
Oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you, I didn't put in the show notes. It was like several weeks ago. Uh, who owned them? Whoever purchased Red vs. Blue, Rooster Teeth, closed Rooster Teeth down. Like, yeah whatever. I kind of saw it coming. But I think you have potential to make a lot of money.
They closed it down because they heard Halo may be going to PlayStation. They're like, I don't want none of that.
But what I was saying while you were gone, Free, was the amount of money. There's no doubt that PlayStation has double the amount of consoles out there than the Xbox does. That's just a fact.
That's kind of low. I'd say it's more than that, but
okay. And if you're selling $250 million worth of Halo franchise, you put that on the PlayStation console, you're going to double or triple that amount. So it's not a bad idea to bring that whole thing over and let people enjoy Halo 1, Halo 2, that were just epic games. And the other one for this conversation would be Gears, something that's very dear to me and Fremo's heart.
I'm going to go back to the Atari.
Yeah, go back to Atari.
That's all I'll have left.
Gears of War creator and former Epic employee Cliff Bleszinski, otherwise known as Cliffy B, he did chime in. He's hinted that maybe in the next round of games that they're going to release over to PlayStation, that Gears could be one of them. He also thinks Phil Spencer is going for the Netflix model, which I don't disagree with. Get as much of your platform as you can on other consoles. So right now, like we said before, PlayStation, you got PlayStation, and you can maybe play PlayStation Now. It's not that good. It's not solid. But Xbox cloud game is very well done, except for high peak times. It is very well done. You can jump on there, and once you get connected, it's really good. And they're starting to move they're starting to shift a lot of games over to Steam or allowing the other franchise games to go onto different platforms. So they've already locked in their console for Xbox, I'm saying. They've locked in their console, they've locked in the PC world, and they've locked in mobile with cloud gaming. So I think it's only inevitable that they're going to start selling more franchises over to PlayStation. They started with this round of like games just to test the waters, but I think they're really missing out on not doing it like
eventually. Eventually, there will be one console to rule them all.
I don't disagree. And my dream of that would be
You know who it's going to be?
Nintendo.
Go ahead. Who do you want it to be?
I still want it to be Microsoft with Xbox, but I want the interface of the PlayStation. Like bad. Why? Who do you think?
Sega's going to come out of left field.
They could. Why not? Why not? Sega's got the track record for doing stuff like that. I think it's plausible. I think it's absolutely plausible.
They were so innovative with their consoles.
Yeah, I still say the Dreamcast was one of the, for that time, the Dreamcast was where it was at. I mean, online gaming before it was even online gaming. That was great. The Coalition, who makes Gears of War, is still currently working on Gears of War 6. No date and time yet, but they are actively working on it. And Microsoft did purchase Coalition. So they've also partnered with Netflix for Gears of War film and an animated series, which hasn't come out yet. They're still working on scripts and such. But I think the Gears franchise, if anything, I just don't know. I think they're going to make a shit ton of money if they put Gears and Halo on PlayStation. I think it's a smart move, smart business move.
I don't disagree. It's a smart move if you want to make a bunch of money.
And closing the game segment this week, some fun things. So if you have a good memory or you have a pen and a paper handy, write these down because these are the 2024 finalists for Video Game Hall of Fame. There's a link in the show notes where you can vote. Only 3 of the 12 games I'm about to mention are going to go into the Hall of Fame. And here's the list. So you have 1979's Asteroids. You have 1984's Elite, which kind of pioneered 3D graphics. You have Guitar Hero. You have Metroid. You have 1993's Myst. And you have a browser-based game that everybody remembers called Neopets. The original Resident Evil, might I mention the Hallway Dogs, which scared the shit out of me for the first time in a game.
All right.
Like made me jump and like turn on all the lights. Sim City, Dating Simulator, Tokimika Memorial, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, and Ultima. Oh, and You Don't Know Jack.
I do, unfortunately.
So let's run these through backwards. You Don't Know Jack, I don't think so. I think it's a great game. It's mostly a sit down on the couch, family-esque game. I don't think it should be in the Hall of Fame because you can do a board game and get the same type of reaction instead of being online. Ultima, I'm not seeing Ultima. Tony Hawk Pro Skater changed the way we do that genre.
Ultima was okay, but I don't see it on the same level as some of these others.
Dating Simulator, no. Sim City's another one that could be in contention because Sim City kind of created the whole sim kind of genre, you know, whereas with, and here's how the breakdown is going to be. I think Tony Hawk Pro Skater is a great game, but it's for skating. And there's really hasn't been, there's been a couple of other games, but they don't touch Tony Hawk. So there's no competition. With Sim City, there's a lot of simulation competition. And Sim City is always right there, right at the top, right at the forefront, being innovative.
I mean, I think some of these are on here. Obviously, Asteroids is on there because that was probably one of the first huge breakout games.
I think
back in the
Asteroid's
day.
a gimme. I think it's a gimme.
Yeah.
I think that one's automatically going to win.
It appealed to just so many different people. It
Right.
was not hard. It was not a difficult game conceptually to get your head wrapped around what you were doing, but it was hard as crap to be good at.
Yeah.
And that thing made a ton of money one quarter at a time.
I think good.
Yeah. Go ahead. Resident Evil is where I was going next.
I think Resident Evil can be a contender because of the horror genre that it kind of launched, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
it made writing a horror genre. It made it right. Like the hallway dogs alone at the beginning of the game. If you ever played that game and somebody mentions the hallway dogs, that's your first experience of a jump scare, of I'm turning on all the fucking lights. I got to be real careful with this game. So it really added a lot. The browser-based game Neopets, again, browser-based games. There was a Penguin game that one of my kids played. Like, I'm not impressed with the browser-based games. A lot of them are Java written, and they were okay. I don't feel that. 1993's Myst, however, was a phenomenal game. Like if you had a computer and you saw somebody playing Myst or you read about it in one of your magazines, you were like, I need to try that game out. And it was the first game that you really had to look at your specs on your computer to see if you could play it, or else the thing would just bind up and not run.
Yeah.
And again, it launched a lot of those puzzle games. It really did. Myst was all about that puzzle and figuring it out.
RPG puzzle solving.
Right.
Yeah.
Metroid is
I thought it was
another
a
one.
great game.
I do too.
Yeah.
Metroid is another one, and I can go either way on this. It's a platform gamer. It did create a lot of, but I don't think it established itself as the part of the genre. I just don't think it did. I think it was a great game. I mean, I played the shit out of that game.
I mean, for my money, Mega Man over Metroid.
Yeah. Yep.
That's just me, personal preference, but yeah.
No, but it didn't break any new ground, in my opinion. Now, Guitar Hero definitely broke ground. That broke ground for a rhythm game on many aspects, even business-wise, on how much money you can make by selling peripherals. I mean, that game just really kind of took everything off, and you can still play that game. They have hundreds of songs out.
Thousands.
Yeah. 1984's Elite, which pioneered 3D graphics. I can see how that could be a contender because it was like one of the first with 3D graphics, but not enough people played it.
Well, see, and that's the thing. If they had different categories,
yeah,
some of these would be absolutely in number one on their category, like Elite for innovation.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep.
Because it did, like you said, 3D graphics. It you know. But out of what I see here, what are your three that you're voting for?
Asteroids, Guitar Hero, and I'm gonna have to go with Myst. It's a tough call. Myst or Resident Evil. That's where
I gotta change some of my votes. There's no way we can have the same three.
Why? We just explained it. That's what a Gen X gamer knows.
Okay, so I'm gonna go with
Pick different on purpose, you prick.
no. I definitely those four, and Resident Evil probably being in the honorable mention spot. So
Yeah, because of the way it handled it. But Myst, Guitar Hero, and Asteroids. I mean, Asteroids is a gimme. You just have to. That's boom. That's in. You can't not put that in. I mean, that was in every arcade. That was one of the premier games on all the first home consoles. Like, you can't not put it in.
Yeah.
But I think the other ones all have they're legit. Now they're all good games for what they are. But like I explained before, the
yeah. I
plain
mean,
and simple.
Ultima, you know, you there's some other games that have survived
Right.
in that genre, but Ultima was one of the original ones in the whole fantasy world, you know, in the vein of Fable, Baldur's
Yeah.
Gate. I mean, that whole Dragon Age, you know, stuff. I mean, it was because I actually had Ultima 1, 2, and 3 collection at one point.
Yeah.
Really good games, but I mean, obviously they weren't
I mean,
groundbreaking for what they did.
I think the greatest way to explain it for us would be Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, because it is a
Yeah.
phenomenal game. I played it for
It is.
hours, but it,
But how
it
many
also,
people outside the skater community really even took notice of it?
that's true. But I would even go a step farther. What other games are out there that are like that? None. They pretty much cornered the market. They were so good.
Yeah.
What I like to see is these games that are in there. I mean, outside of Asteroids, because that was just a gimme. But there is a lot. We said Guitar Hero. There is a lot of rhythm games. Hi-Fi just went over to PlayStation from Xbox. There's a lot of rhythm games. But Guitar Hero is Guitar Hero for a rhythm game. Like, everybody's going to be compared to that forever. And there's a lot of other choices. Same thing with Myst. There's a lot of RPG puzzle games, but Myst was kind of the first one that really took it. And you can still fall back to it anytime. SimCity, you know.
Yeah, I think that's probably the key here is the is this even a word? Replayability.
Yeah, replayability. I mean,
you could literally, you know, easily sit down and just shred on some Guitar Hero for a little while. If you have a PC that you can run emulation on, you know, like run it in Windows 98 compatibility mode.
Yeah.
Or, you know, something like that, or XP even. You know, you could sit down and you could play Myst all over again.
Right.
You know, easily. Resident Evil, same thing.
I don't
You
think
know,
it right. As you were saying, I don't think it's like they are the market, because if there's nobody else like Tony Hawk Pro Skater, if there's nobody else in that market that's even holding a candle, then it's not. But if you look at SimCity, there's a lot of simulation games, but everybody falls back to SimCity because it's the game. I don't know. Let's get to this week's tech news. So first up, Fremo, how fast is your broadband? What's your upload and download?
well, I have one up and one down.
Nice. I have one down and like 35 meg up. No, 50 meg up, I think. Perfectly fine. Do the show, gaming, multiple kids.
Oh no, I wasn't talking about megs.
I know you were talking about gigs. I get it. We have 1 gig down and 30 or 50 megabytes up. Do you know what basic broadband speed is according to the FCC?
You actually qualify for broadband under the new levels that they set, which is 100 down, 100 megs down, 100 megabits per second down, and 20 up.
Right. Which, again, as we talked about on the show, because the internet is the internet, everybody needs to have it's become a utility.
It
But-
really has.
But back until 2015, and you can get it free from your cable provider via the government. But since 2015, basic broadband was supposed to be 25 meg down and 3 meg up. Now, their argument back then was, hey, this is for people that are going online to pay bills, because in some cases that's all you can do. But that's not the way the internet works anymore at all. It is not just if you don't have TV service or you don't want to pay the cable company the unbelievably extreme amounts of money for video service, then you're going to go with a basic Netflix subscription, and 25 meg down and 3 meg up is just not going to cut it. You're going to be buffering all day and part of tomorrow in most cases. And now, like Fremo said, they're looking at 100 meg down and 20 meg up. I think that is perfect. That is exactly what.
Yeah, I think this was a good move. I don't think it was enough of a move, but it was definitely a move in the right direction.
Right. They're looking at, in the next 5 years, they're looking at moving that up even more as well. But I think that's going to have to wait till the infrastructure is there.
I mean, what's 5G at now? 35 down, 3 up. So it's, I mean,
it's on par. It's just, it's a big difference between a cellular network and a home residential network, because people have shitty routers. People have bricks and shit in their house and whatnot. And it's just not the same as the cellular bandwidth or the cellular frequency, I should say. And speaking of, and you're going to need 100 meg down and 20 meg up to be able to do your Teams calls if you're working remotely. Here in my little tiny state of Rhode Island, we just found out that one bridge I talk to you about all the time, they got to tear it down. It has failed a bunch of safety shit. And there is problems throughout the state of people possibly losing their jobs, people relocating to the other side of the bay, remote work, because it's just, you're spending an hour and a half in our tiny ass state. You're spending an hour and a half parked in traffic.
You wanna hear a conspiracy theory on this?
Sure.
The haves want to segregate themselves and keep themselves away from all you have-nots.
That's possible. That's not. Speaking of video conferencing, Logitech has just come out with a new web camera, which I think is nice. And we've talked about it on the show before. Fremo and I actually like Logitech. It's their software that absolutely sucks.
I don't use their software. I don't install it.
No, I don't either. We here at BGFG in the house, we use Elgato cameras. We have a bunch of them. I like them. I like the way they look. I like the way the software is. But right there is a Logitech C920 camera, because the shit's
Right
and
there.
that's what Fremo's using, because the shit is bulletproof, and it's an absolute great backup for if you have another camera, or if you're bougie and you're using your still camera, your Sony still camera, to look all special and bougie. It's still a great alternative. It's something you can throw in a backpack and utilize at any location. It's just great. And now Logitech has, well, they had the Brio 4K, but I found that their Brio cameras were just the same thing as an Elgato camera. Really was, as the Elgato Facecam. So I expected the Brio 4K to be similar to the Elgato Facecam Pro, their new one. And it is and it isn't. They're adding the MX Brio to their lineup. The MX Brio has an 8.5 megapixel 4K lens in it. It's got a privacy shutter that's built right in. I had to order one for my new Elgato. I had to order one from Etsy. For the old Elgato, it has a cap that's a pain in the ass to put on and off.
Yeah, that's the only thing that this model doesn't have is the privacy shutter.
Now, that's weird, because my C920 came with a privacy shutter that clips on. That's weird. Anyway, the privacy shutter is really kind of a go-to thing, because sometimes you just need to shut it off. You can also take this camera and you can flip it downwards to shoot your desk or keyboard if you're that type of streamer that does those sort of things. And it's $200, which is less than the Elgato Pro, and right around the same price as the Elgato Facecam. So it's not a bad price for what you're getting. The fact that you get an 8.5 megapixel 4K camera out of it, and it's Logitech, they're going to work. Fremos has never failed him. My C920 I've used numerous times as a backup or as a spare camera. Maybe it's time to update your camera, people. Just update your camera, get something new. The C920 is not a bad choice. Logitech and Elgato's choices are also nice. Maybe besides updating your camera with that income tax money, maybe you want to splurge a little bit on a monitor. I think I found a great monitor. Now you can go. I've had the 49-inch ultra wide, way too big. The 34 inches, a lot of them are just too expensive. This was an interesting piece from LG. LG makes good monitors, gaming monitors. Their 32-inch Ultra Gear dual mode, I think, is. I came across this and I was just like, oh, that's interesting. So,
Yeah.
one mode you can use for watching movies, right? That mode is just a button switch. The mode is 4K. You get a 3840 by 2160 at 240 hertz for watching TV. Now there is people, kids, whatnot, or maybe you're low on a budget. You don't have a specific room for gaming. This is your gaming rig and your movie time. That's a great choice. 4K, 2160 at 240 hertz. That's phenomenal. But then if you want a game, you flip the button and you get a 1920 by 1080 at 480 hertz. That's impressive for gaming.
It is, and so is the price tag. I just saw it.
Yeah. So people still shit on me sometimes for using 1080, and I don't use 1080 for every game, but it's like 50-50. Some games I use 1440, some games I use 1080. And I still don't have a problem with 1080 because you get immersed in the game. I've said that 100 times.
Yeah.
This one, having the switch between the two, I can see the point, and I'm going to get to that in a second, Free. I can see the point of having this monitor if you're a college student, if you're a single person living in a one room somewhere, and you optimize your screen or your television, depends on what you're doing, for gaming and from watching TV and movies. But a 32-inch screen, as cool as this thing is, for $1,400, I think is a little expensive right now. $1,400 is a lot to spend on a 32-inch monitor. You can get a TV for less, a 4K TV for a lot less, and utilize that if you wanted to. This isn't going to have those refresh rates, but you can still get the job done. You can probably get a bigger TV if you wanted to.
And just so people understand, because I actually saw a video this week, 32 inches on the diagonal, people. It's not width.
Oh, you have no idea how many times I see people come into my store with their tape measure and measure across. I'm like, okay. And they measure the screen. That's how you can tell. Are you measuring the screen or are you measuring the bezel? If you're measuring from bezel to bezel, that means you're trying to fit it someplace. I respect that. If you're measuring just the screen, you're like, yeah, it's not big enough. What do you mean it's not big enough? It's corner to corner, you idiot. Who doesn't know that at this point?
I saw a video where this girl was all upset and she was going to take the TV back because it was supposed to be a 55-inch TV. And she measured it, and then she measured the box, and the box, oddly enough, because of the packaging, was actually 55 inches width. And she's like, "This is false advertising." And I'm like, and you're looking at the box, and you can see where it says 55-inch, and then diagonally underneath. And I'm like, read, people, read.
I had to take care of an irate customer at customer service as the manager on duty because she purchased a surround sound, a sound bar with rear speakers. And the box said wireless. And she's like, it's not wireless. I said, what do you mean it's not wireless? I looked at it. I said, I know this product very well. The rear speakers are wireless. As soon as you turn it on, it'll make the connection with it. She's like, yeah, but I had to plug it in. I was like, what do you mean? She's like, I had to plug it into the wall. The sound bar itself had to be plugged into the wall. I said, yes. She goes, that's not wireless. This is false advertising. I said, well, how do you expect it to get power? She's like, that's not my problem. I'm like, wow, you know what? Just for your stupidity, I'm going to return this for you. I'm going to give you your money back. And I want you to heel toe it all the way out the store. I just couldn't.
I'm sure you've seen the one where the girl's mad because they're selling Lion in the supermarkets now.
Selling Lion?
Yeah. I'll see if I can find that video.
Loin?
Yeah. She's like, they're selling lion chops. They're cutting up exotic animals and they're selling them in our supermarkets. And she shows the product and it's a loin chop.
You're an idiot.
I'm just like,
dummy down of America.
Please be a joke.
Please don't
I don't think it was, but.
All right. Do you have anything else this week?
No.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That's it for this week. Tense down. Show's over. So you can find more of this garbage at bgfgonline.com. You can also send us an email with your questions or suggestions at bgfgshow@gmail.com. Find our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Overcast, Podcast, Castro, Castbox, Podchaser, and YouTube. Thank you for listening.